Hello and welcome to Wrestling and welcome back to the Raw replay. Sorry I took a week off last week. Adam is away on holiday and I just decided I'm going to have a week off from doing these videos. And I was actually very busy with some other projects, so that's why I never got around to doing the Raw replay or the SmackDown synopsis last week. But we're back. I thought I have to get on this week's because I've seen a lot of people moaning about the way things have been. So I thought I need to do a video. And Monday Night Raw kicks off with Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon. But Roman Reigns turns up. He's been teasing on social media that he will be turning up to Monday Night Raw despite being a SmackDown superstar. And this kind of makes the brand split hugely pointless. Because, of course, Roman Reigns just transferred over and now he's appearing on Monday Night Raw. And then all of a sudden we had Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston as well on Monday Night Raw. So Vince decides to change the rules, and from now on there is a wild card rule in place apparently, meaning that any three superstars can just turn up on, SmackDown from Raw or from Raw from SmackDown. So yeah, what is the point in the brand split? I don't really understand it. And I don't know if this is a bit of a Hail Mary, because apparently the ratings are dropping and dropping and dropping week on week, so I don't know if this is a move to do something about that. Who knows? But I can see the end of the brand split coming soon. I've been saying it for a while. I think with Fox taking on SmackDown later on in the year, I think we might start seeing more and more people going across both shows. Anyway, Drew McIntyre comes out fuming about the SmackDown superstars coming across because, he wants to be the guy on Monday night. And Vince decides to book 2 WrestleMania rematches. So we get Roman Reigns later on against Drew McIntyre. And we get Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. Then AJ Styles comes out and he's complaining about what's going on. Yeah, he sort of says, I've come over here, similar to what Drew was saying. And then Seth heads out and he's fuming with AJ. Everyone's fuming. This was a whirlwind of superstars coming down this first half an hour. Vince books them in a match and they're all ready to square off against each other when he says no, not against each other, but together against Bobby Lashley and Baron Corbin. So that was the first match on the show. And actually, I thought it was a good match. I enjoyed it. Each man was getting their sort of offense in, a little bit of their own style. AJ and Seth, of course, both flying around the ring, doing, what they do. The heel boys were hitting their big power moves. Corbin was getting that big right that he does, which looks great against AJ and Seth when they're jumping around. Just clocks them straight out of the sky. And Lashley hit one of those spears through the ropes. But the inevitable accident of the 2 competitors, of course Seth and AJ have got a match at Money in the Bank. And AJ went for the phenomenal forearm on, I think it must have been Corbin, and he accidentally hits Seth, and AJ walks off and actually leaves him at the end there, and Corbin wins via the end of the day. So like I said, it was a good match, kind of obvious what was going to happen, but I did enjoy it. Next we get Sami Zayn in the ring for his latest whinge at the crowd. I'm not particularly enjoying this current thing that Sami Zayn's doing. I think he's okay at promos and everything, but I don't know, it's just the same thing every week, just whinging about the crowd being entitled and stuff. Yeah, I don't know if I'm into it. But Braun Strowman comes out and he chases after Sami, just sort of out of nowhere, really. I don't know where this one started up from. But he ends up chasing him all over the backstage area and eventually catches up with him and puts him in a dumpster. So guess what match these two are going to be having in the future? Yeah. Braun likes a gimmick match, doesn't he? They like booking him in one every now and again. Following this, we get the Lucha House Party, and they squash some enhancement talent in a 3-on... I think it was a 3-on-2 match. It might have been 3-on-3. It ended that quick, I didn't really see. Lacey Evans invites the women involved in the Money in the Bank match to ringside for her match later on. Robert Roode takes on Ricochet, and if Robert Roode wins, he takes Ricochet's place in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And it was looking for a while like Roode was going to do it. He dominates the match, but Ricochet, he gets a little bit of separation and he hits the 630 for the win. Then we get Samoa Joe shouting at Dominic. Dominic, of course, is Ray's son, and he's shouting at Dominic saying, that he embarrassed Samoa Joe or something when he was lifting Ray up on his shoulders, and then, he said something about like, oh, just like how I embarrassed your dad at WrestleMania. Yeah, not the best. And Samoa Joe's normally really good at stuff, like promos and stuff like that, but yeah, could sort of do without this. I think this is a problem of Raw being 3 hours long, is they just have to fill it with crap. Anyway, Lacey beats a jobber in about 5 seconds with a woman's right, and the other women are obviously watching on, like she invited them out earlier, and she warns them all that if they win Money in the Bank, not to cash in on her, because she's that convinced that she's going to beat Becky at Money in the Bank. And Becky decides she's had enough of listening to Lacey, and she heads out and she runs her off. The Viking Raiders take on Hawkins and Ryder, and the champs were actually getting some offense in, surprisingly, against the Viking Raiders. But eventually the Raiders hit the Viking Experience and they win. Following this, we got the Firefly Funhouse, and I quite like this now. I was a little bit on edge to start with about the whole thing, but it's been pretty good the past few weeks. I think Bray's really killing it with these little segments. But yeah, on this week's episode, Mercy the Buzzard has killed that rabbit from last week. I can't remember what the name of the rabbit is. And then Bray asks him why he did it, and he's saying, oh yeah, I don't like him, and he was saying things about me. And Bray goes on about being forgiven and stuff. So it's obviously like sort of an angle on Bray Wyatt's past and stuff like that. I'm really enjoying these segments. There's a lot of sort of parallels to previous things that he's done, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. So we get to Roman versus Drew, and again another decent match, a couple of decent matches on tonight's Raw. I was enjoying this all the way through, really, and Reigns was about to win, and he hit the spear, and all of a sudden Shane McMahon and Elias break the pin up, and obviously the match gets thrown out, and then Miz runs down to chase off Shane. So lots going on, lots of feuds sort of being started or crossing over, and it's a little bit better than last year. This time last year, I remember coming out of WrestleMania, the feuds were all over the place. It feels like there's kind of a nice solid run up here for some new feuds currently. Anyway, while Shane's running away, Charlie Caruso, she tries to get an interview with him, which was quite funny. He was like desperately scrambling to get away from Miz, and he finds his limo, and out of nowhere Miz hits him with a chair. They have a little scrap, and Shane eventually gets away. So we get into the silly part of the show. The Usos come out to wind the Revival up before their match with the Good Brothers. Apparently they put some of that icy hot stuff in the Revival's locker room. I don't know why the Revival used it. Is it like a muscle thing? I don't know, but they start getting like really like hot skin, and it was quite funny. Like Dawson started dragging his butt along the mat like a dog. That was quite funny. But it's like, why are the Revival doing this? Like, they're not a comedy team. I think it does show that they can do the comedy stuff, which is, good that they can do that as performers. But I don't know, when they were super serious, Revival were like such a serious tag team when they came up from NXT, and I don't know, it's not great for them to be doing these comedy angles all the time. I think it works for the Usos laughing at them, because the Usos are pretty funny. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the match never got going because of this. Next, No Way Jose takes on Lars. Wow, if ever you thought there was going to be a squash match, but it never actually got going. Lars gets down to the ring and he takes out pretty much all of the conga line, and then he destroys No Way Jose as well. So after this, he walks to Vince's office, and Vince is on the phone explaining the wild card rule to someone. I don't know who it's supposed to be, but he's saying that there's 3 superstars probably coming over to SmackDown tomorrow on SmackDown from Raw, and Lars walks in, and then Vince says, oh, maybe 4. So this wildcard thing, it's just basically like there's no rules anymore, anything can happen. So yeah, let's not even think like there's a brand split anymore, I guess. To close the night off, the 2 SmackDown superstars, Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston, go head to head for the WWE Championship again. And again, this was another great match between these two. Some really cool spots and some brutal stuff as well. There was a particular point where Daniel Bryan launched Kofi over the top rope, and he landed really hard on the outside floor. And then later on, there was a bit where Kofi kept trying to hit Trouble in Paradise, but he kept either missing, or like at this point, Daniel Bryan hit a drop kick, so they sort of hit each other at the same time. Eventually, Kofi did hit Trouble in Paradise, and he retained the title. And I thought it was a good match to end. So for me, there was 3 good matches on tonight's Raw. And I've seen a lot of people saying it was the worst Raw in like a long time, but I thought like it was just like another Raw, and actually it had 3 decent matches on it. So for me, I'm gonna give it another 6 out of 10. There's just too many little filler bits for me, like the revival thing that's going on, and like the Samoa Joe bit with Dominic backstage. It could do with, I don't know, just I think it's just a problem with it being 3 hours. What I do like is that now that they can't sort of run over anymore, they seem to be getting on with the show a little bit more. Like people are coming out and hitting their cues a bit more. So yeah, I don't know, but supposedly ratings are down and they're struggling and stuff like that. And obviously All Elite's right around the corner now, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But thanks for watching, and we hope to see you for our SmackDown synopsis.